I don't think there's very many physical therapy experts that really understand the stem cell recovery like your group does. My name is Sue Savat. I am 59. I don't know if I want to say that out loud, but I am. I'll own it. And I found out about CPI, or about stem cell experts, through CPI, where I had my my stem cell injections. I actually did not utilize any kind of stem cell physical therapy experts after my first injections, and I didn't have a whole lot of results. And so I wanted to do a better job of following a better protocol. And so at CPI, they had recommended sports performance. All right, so I ran marathons, half marathons, and did triathlons for about 30 years. I did 37 full marathons and a 50K. And I sit a lot for my job. Okay. I sit all day long. And I never blame running for my bad knees. I blame the fact that I didn't do any of the things that I should have done to strengthen anything else around my knees. I just sat for 9 hours a day and then went out and ran 8 miles and thought, that'll be fine. And it was for 30 years. And then after that, they just kept bothering me. So I gave up for the most part for about 5 years. And I was still really able to do, I could bike. I still did almost every CrossFit move other than anything that was a lot of high impact. But after about 5 years, I thought, okay, I'm going to try the PRP injections. I live 45 minutes away from Mayo Clinic, the home in Rochester. Mm-hmm. And so I did PRP, and honestly, I think it actually made it worse. It did not make it better, for sure. And so I kind of gave up after that. And I don't mean to bring emotion and loss into this, but my best friend lost her husband at age 54 to cancer. And she was my best friend. We ran all of our marathons together, and we were trying to do all 50 states. And so she continued with all 50 states after I had to stop. And she had one state left. And I really wanted to run that one last state. And probably not the whole marathon, mm-hmm. but even if I could have run like the last 6 with her. Yeah. And so that kind of put me on a mission for what can I do? What can I do to get back to running? And so I started doing a lot of research. And I actually talked to, I think, five or six different stem cell providers, some in the US, some in Mexico, Panama, all of that, and decided that I liked the protocol and the philosophy behind CPA, and so decided to give that a try last August. And so my first injections were in August of last year. I went back home, and again, because of my experience with running and CrossFit, and I was a coach at CrossFit, so I've done a lot of physical therapy over my years, and I thought, I got this. I don't need any help. I can figure this out. And so I did some local physical therapists that have not had any experience with stem cells, and in hindsight, I did way too much, way too soon. And so when I went back at 6 months, I had not had any improvement. Wow. I had like about a 3-week time period, maybe 5 months in, where I thought, okay, I think they're maybe getting better. But then I think I did a little too much again. Yeah. Big problem I have. And so after I went back for the second injections, I thought, okay, I want to really give this a fighting chance and not mess it up. And so, I'm making the commitment to come from Minnesota to San Diego and Tijuana, and I'm doing all of this, so let's give it its best effort. And so I connected with the virtual PT through Dr. Shane. It was amazing. It was really frustrating a lot because it's very slow. And I was like, really? This is all I get to do for the next 2 weeks? And the people at my gym would be like, "Hi, Sue," wave to me in the corner as I was over there on the ground doing my little band and, and a little bit of mobility. And a couple of them were like, "I can't believe that you stuck with this the way you have." But it was important to do it right. And even after, probably 6 weeks or so, I was like, okay, I think maybe I'm starting to feel different than I did after the first injections. And I know they say with stem cells that they continue to work from, 6 months to a year and slightly thereafter. And so, part of it was the stem cells, but a lot of it was making sure I'm doing the right physical therapy to strengthen everything. And the most fascinating thing to me was, again, I was doing CrossFit, so obviously I was using muscles. But there were so many things that Dr. Shane had me do that were small movements where I was like, I don't think I've ever used this muscle. Why is this so hard? And so, I've just been really happy. I'm going to go back for my 1-year injections this week.
Nice.
And get to start the PT all over again.
Yep.
But you know what? If it gives me another 5 or 6 years before I need to do anything more orthopedically or whatever, and it allows me to do. I haven't run a lot of mileage yet, just because honestly I've had a few other mishaps, just unexpected. My grandkids, we were swinging them on a disc, came back and totally hit my knees and hyperextended them, and so I had to kind of take a few steps forward and then take a few steps back. So I haven't run a ton, but the run walks that I've been doing have just, they make me so happy. It really is. I got out of college, and my best friend went to medical school, and she was going to school in a city that had a marathon. And so she came home over Christmas break, and at that time I had never run more than maybe 3 miles. And she's like, "Let's run a marathon." And I was like, "Are you crazy?" And she said, "Well, it's hosted by Grandma's Bar, and there's a big party at the end." And I said, "Oh, okay, that sounds good. Let's do it."
I like that part.
I know, right? That's what got me. But after I did the first one, I was so inspired because it was between mile 20 or 21 at that time. And again, I'm old, but at that time, everybody that was in the masters age groups got a number that was pinned on their back that would say 50 to 55, 56 to 60, so it told their age group. And between mile 20 and 21, I came up on a man that had 80 to 84 on the back of his jersey. And I thought, I'm 22 at the time. This man is 80, and he was ahead of me for 21 miles. Yeah. I was so impressed, and I thought, This is so cool. I want to be able to do this. And I was really blessed and did it for a long time. The CrossFit thing actually came, my husband has also been very active all his life, and he discovered CrossFit in about 2011-12. He left his corporate job, and we actually opened the CrossFit gym in our small town. So we coached, we ran it, we met so many amazing people from that community. We just, we loved every minute of it. And I run because I like to feel physically healthy. But for me, so much of it is the mental aspect. It is all about, on days where I can go out and do a 3 to 4 mile run and just think about a problem at work and kind of work through it. Or if I'm having a major stressful day, go to the gym and just be silly and social with all of the people there. And I'm always amazed at people that don't find time in their day to be active, because for me, it's what keeps me sane. Yeah. And again, I've really trusted the doctors at CPI. And Scott, who I think is one of the owners, had talked about sports performance originally. And I thought, I can figure this out on my own. And then when I went back, I couldn't remember the name, and I had asked, and I said, can you give me the information? And so I did a bit of research. I watched some of the testimonials. and just learning more about, that this is a specialized area of recovery. It's different. And so I had done that research. I reached out and connected with Dr. Shane, and I just, the way he talked about all of the different pieces of the process and the mental aspect and the physical aspect and the as soon as I had my first conversation with him, I remember coming off the video call and going in. My husband was at home, and I was just like, this is going to be really good. I was really excited about it. And he's like, really? You've done PT, before? And I was like, no, he just has a way of presenting the whole process to help. And I'm a very, I need to know the end goal kind of person. And he was able to talk through all of that and kind of what to expect. And I was like, okay, it's going to be a good one. Yeah. I would say that the most helpful part was really just kind of setting that framework. Again, like I said, I kind of like the process and to know what that end result is. And so just having, and Dr. Shane was amazing with his Google spreadsheet. He would, number it. This is 1. And now next week we're going to do 1A. It's not going to be a whole lot different, but here's what to expect next week. And so just having that framework, knowing that, okay, I'm doing this, and the purpose of this is so that it gets my body ready for the next one. Yeah. And then, phase 2 and phase 3 and where those will go. And so I think, again, he was so amazing at explaining, like, here's why we're doing these things. Here's how working on this relates to the knee recovery. Yeah. And my goal of running, he had the Bulgarian split squats in there. And after the first couple weeks of doing it, now he said, okay, now I want you to do it up on your toe. Because again, you need to have that ankle and toe strength if you want to run. Yeah. And so just, those little nuances that, I would certainly never think of. Yeah. And then helping me understand why I was doing them for the end result that I was hoping for. So, yeah. And I think that mentally it was hard, but knowing that I did too much the first time made it a little bit easier to accept it. Okay. Because I was like, okay, the first time didn't work. I know it didn't work. This is challenging mentally to commit to this slow process, but I believe that that's what I need in order to have it be successful in the end. So Scott from CPI actually said kind of that same thing. He said, somebody had asked, well, can I do this or should I do this? And he said, you need to ask yourself, if I was holding on to a 2-week baby, would you do that? Oh. Would you, it was
That's a different way of looking at it too.
Yeah. I was like, okay, if I would not do this,
holding a
move, if I wouldn't jump rope, if I wouldn't do whatever it is, holding a 2-week baby, then don't do it. Wow. I think for me, even before I really added anything that was, any kind of impact, jump rope or any of the more weight-bearing activities, it was probably about 2 to 2.5 months in, and I was just walking up the stairs at work in the morning. Okay. And all of a sudden I went, that doesn't hurt. And for the last 14 years, the first steps up, the first steps down, going from sitting from my chair to standing, it wasn't necessarily super painful for me, but I would always feel it, just always an irritation, a little grind, a little, crabbing at me. Yep. And all of a sudden I was like, it doesn't hurt to go upstairs. And kind of that same thing. I told my husband shortly thereafter, and I was like, it's amazing to get up in the morning and take the first steps to go down our stairs and not feel pain. So that was my first realization that, okay, this is working, stick with it, trust the process. And I remember the first time Dr. Shane said, okay, I want you to try to do a walk run, do this for a walk, this amount for run. And I did it and it felt awful. It felt I felt like a baby deer trying to walk for the first time. I felt like I just didn't even know how to do it.
Yeah.
But I did the amount that he did, and I said it didn't feel great. It just feels weird and like I'm not ready, but I'm going to trust the process. I did it again, probably 4 days later. I was like, okay, I'm going to do it again. And I was like, okay, that feels a little bit better. Now it's feeling more normal.
Yeah.
And, the next week again, try it again. Okay, now it's feeling, every time I would do it, I would get a little bit stronger and feel a little bit more normal through the process. So it was fun to go through. The first time I went to the West Lake and I was like, okay, I'm going to do my walk run around it. I was like, I just want to run. I just want to run. I'm like, no, stick with the program. Don't change it up. And so yeah, it is hard to hold back, but I also know at my age and going through this process that I need to be smart, and I got to think long term and not. Again, the milestones are just every step in the process, really, where the first week, maybe it's like, oh, this doesn't feel good, or I don't think I'm ready for this. And then I stick with it. And then it's like, okay, now it feels good.
Yeah.
The whole monster walk with the band, when we first started it, it's like I could do it going forward, but going backward really irritated the knees. And I was like, oh, I'm just never going to be able to go backward. And then after doing the forward for, about 3 or 4 weeks, I was like, okay, I'm going to try backward. And then it didn't hurt, So it's like, it's just all of those. But again, the run walk is the huge milestone for me, to actually be able to get out there and actually get a sweat on and put some miles on in my city and be able to get back to the places that I was.
Yeah.
That's the best. Yeah. I would say you need to just do it.
Yeah.
You really need, I don't think there's very many physical therapy experts that really understand the stem cell recovery like your group does. I mean, the training and the specific protocols that you all have developed. In fact, in my cohort, when I did it, there was a physical therapist that was there.
Oh.
And he was having injections in his back. And again, he's a physical therapist, so he should know. From the WhatsApp and him talking about it, he didn't get the results that he would have liked. And I think, he was doing his own protocol, but he's not an expert in it. And it was his first time doing stem cells as well. So I just think you need to go to the people that know and have done it and have worked with people. They've seen, it's like anything. Once you learn from it, you learn what works, what doesn't work, and every joint is different. And I think that's what I've appreciated the most from the new Skool app that Dr. Chris has started, is just understanding that what I have is going to be different than what somebody else has. If it's a shoulder, if it's a knee, if it's a back, whatever it is, you need to find someone that is an expert in that area, and your team has it. Yeah. I had the benefit of having access to a gym and having access to all of the equipment. And so that's really beneficial.
Yeah.
However, everything that Dr. Shane talked about, he never assumed that I had, any of the equipment. And he was always able to go through and say, well, if you have this off of a step in your house, you don't have to actually have a step, or, whatever it might be. I think I was really nervous about doing virtual because I'm a very visual person and very hands-on. And so the visual or the virtual PT, at first I was like, I don't know if this is going to work for me. But truly the way he explains things and the way he could show things and then have me do them and coach position, I think everybody can get a benefit, whether you live in San Diego or you're doing it virtually. I was just asking Dr. Shane where his farthest patient is
yeah.
coming from. He said he has one in India
Yep.
and in the Brazil area.
Yeah.
And so again, I think I really would highly recommend that anybody that's doing stem cell injections come here, because you guys know what you're doing, and you can lead through whether you're here in person or virtually.
Hi, if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification for my weekly tips on recovering safely to create long-lasting results after stem cell therapy. Thanks, and I'll see you soon.